Yo, what's good, everybody? The Who Dat Nation. Guess what? It's your boy, Who Dat Davis, here for you, coming to you live from the B&G Breakdown podcast. I'm so excited, privileged, and blessed to finally say this. The special guest of the week series for this channel has begun, and the very first man who has the honor of coming onto the show, and TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast, one of the very best to do it. TJ, how you doing? Let everybody know who you are, man, for those who haven't heard of you yet.
Yeah, man. How you doing? Can you hear me? You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes,
man.
Sir.
Is you're truly TJ Jones, once again, the host of the State of the Saints podcast that's available on YouTube.com as well as other streaming platforms. Been doing the podcast since about 2018, and as of right now, just got a really good podcast going. So I appreciate it, Aaron, for you having me here on the Black and Gold Breakdown podcast. Excited to talk about Saints football with you.
Yes, sir. No other person deserved this more than TJ, man. And if you guys haven't heard it, this man's got a lot of stuff going on the channel. He's got sponsors. He's ranked as number 10 on overall in the Saints media. The man's coming up, and rightfully so. If you guys haven't heard of his channel, heard of his platforms, I encourage you all to go hit that up. It takes less than 2 seconds to hit that subscribe button or hit that like button, regardless of where you are on the platforms, whether it be here, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. With that being said, it's time to get down with the breakdown. And I want to talk to you first, TJ, about the recent updates from the NFL and NFLPA regarding their policies that really segregated the vaccinated and unvaccinated players around the league. We've seen a lot of discontent between, Darius Butler and notable names like DeAndre Hopkins, Cole Beasley, and one such person here in New Orleans, Paulson Adebo, the third round draft pick coming out of Stanford. He's ruffled some feathers with the Who Dat Nation on this stance of being the anti-vaxxer. Honestly, TJ, my personal opinion right now, I think everybody just needs to just chillax. Well, while I'm not opposed to the NFLPA and NFL putting out these type of regulations and punishing players, they're a private business, so they have that distinction and right to do so, and to make sure they protect players and fellow fans all around. Right. With that being said, we got people looking at these guys as some of the scums of the earth. And Paulson Adebo is unfortunately one of those people. Some people don't want Paulson Adebo to dress up in uniform. They don't want to see him starting for the New Orleans Saints. What are your thoughts so far on Paulson Adebo not opting to take a vaccine?
Well, my response is, this is America, good, bad, and different. And people have options to choose what they want to do, but I can understand why people feel the way that they do. When millions of people lose their lives, when you have loved ones that are sick in and out of the hospital, you become almost like a warrior for this cause, and a lot of people out here, are getting vaccinated because they want to be able to, live long, healthy lives. But at the same time, I mean, these guys are looking at some of the analytics, and they're still looking at that small wiggle room of percentage of, people that, it won't affect. I mean, I even seen Paulson Adebo, if I'm not mistaken, on his Instagram page. He started putting up people who was vaccinated, however, still contracted COVID-19. But like my wife would tell me, she's a nurse practitioner. I mean, you can have the flu and you get a flu shot, doesn't necessarily mean that you're not gonna catch the flu, forever, so. Nothing's ever 100% when it comes to anything medical, any doctor will tell you that, any medication you take, it's not a 100%, 100% rate that is going to make you, happy and healthy. That's why milligrams change. That's why, number of pill intake changes. That's why people go off one particular medication, go on to another. So I don't think that should affect the way that they actually look at this as vaccine. I think they have to look at it from a cultural standpoint. And by culture, I mean the locker room. This coming down, you got to realize, if you go out here and you don't make the right decisions, it can affect your team. And when you are affecting the team has a tendency of looking at that particular player or that particular coach in a whole new light. So I think that each one of those guys need to tread softly.
Tread softly is right. Jesus Christ. But it is a good thing that the Saints are one of the top of the league in terms of vaccinated player percentages, and they have
Right.
all of their tier 1 and tier 2 staff fully vaccinated. So we probably won't even see any COVID outbreaks among the players, or even if there is among some of the more uh, positive confirms on vaccinated players. If they can test negative within a 24-hour period both times, then they're cleared to compete right away. So that's really beneficial for the New Orleans Saints, keeping ahead of the curve, make sure they prevent a problem before it becomes a problem. They're
Right.
proactive and not reactive. And that speaks a lot to the Saints front office and the Saints staff.
Yeah.
With the defense in mind, you recently talked to actually a couple hours ago Keith Washington, an undrafted corner out of West Virginia.
Right.
My thoughts on Keith Washington. I've watched a little bit of him in his collegiate career. A very underrated guy. I believe he only went undrafted because of the bad timing with his injury.
Right.
I believe he had like something doing with a leg injury or a tricep injury, one of those two things. But the character of Keith Washington is kind of aligns with what the Saints have been going for over the last two seasons, starting from 2019. Most prominent name being C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Right.
When I look at this draft class from 2021, the likes of Pete Warner, Landon Young, Paulson Adebo, Ian Book, and even Peyton Turner. These guys have some serious character to them. They're very animated. But they're with
Right.
and every time you guys end up seeing them on the field in their collegiate career, they're impactful in some way, shape, or form. And so it really reflects. My question to you, TJ, is what are your thoughts on this entire draft class as a whole, and who do you see being the most impactful going into this year?
Well, of course, if you watch my live draft reaction, I wasn't exactly happy when they drafted Peyton Turner out of Houston. And it wasn't a knock on Peyton Turner, it was just the fact that when you hear so much of the news, as far as what the Saints actually need, and you know for a fact that's what they actually need was a cornerback, and then they go out here and get themselves a defensive end, start scratching your head. But for the as far as the long term is concerned, I think that this was a good move. I mean, you got to look at the fact that Cam Jordan is then getting up there in age. You lost Trey Hendrickson, even though Marcus Davenport is on the team. I mean, he hasn't shown that he can stay healthy throughout the totality of the entire season. So I thought that was a good pick. And then also just some of these other draft picks. I mean, what you have are high character guys that have been in leadership roles, guys that have been playing on the highest, on the biggest stage. You got Pete Warner playing for Ohio State. I mean, we know that's a football factory. I mean, you have Paulson Adebo playing out there in Stanford in the Pac-12. That's a really good program over there. I mean, they had some struggles, but nevertheless, I mean, Stanford for God's sakes. And then you got like some of these other guys that can fit in really good spots and that can contribute in a big way. Guys from like Landon Taylor, guys like on the offensive line and Kawhi Baker who can also help you in red zone and third down situations if he emerges and becomes that Willie Snead, Lance Moore type player. So I'm extremely excited to see what these guys can do. And as far as Keith Washington is concerned, I think a lot of people miss a huge point, and he even had to bring this to my attention. The fact that he actually played in the Big 12, the fact that they throw the ball all over the place. I think that kind of helps him because not only is it helping you as far as footwork, but those are constant reps that you're actually getting. So I think that him coming into it, I don't think that it was a coincidence that he had a solid season. And also, man, just getting to know him and stuff like that at the beginning of the show, he's level-headed, man. Like he's a humble cat. Like before the show even started, I mean, this dude's grandmother was on the show. Like his grandmother was like in the room, you know what I'm saying? Like looking at him, and you can tell how proud she was of him. So he's a very family-oriented guy, humble guy. And when you see guys like that, man, you got to root for him. So I definitely think that he's going to be one of those guys that's going to get some playing time this season.
Yeah, I definitely think Keith Washington's a guy to look out for. He's definitely going to be that backup corner to either Marshawn Lattimore or Paulson Debo, or even a veteran corner if the Saints go out there and do, because we're talking about it from a depth perspective. There's not much there defensively, but there's some offensively. And Keith Washington, I believe it's his spot to lose at this point. But you have a big shooter Phil and Janoris Jenkins leaving. Keith Washington can really take advantage of the fact that he's coming into an offseason fully healthy, and he had, like you said, to your point, he has those reps, that experience playing the pass or playing the ball or even playing the receiver when he's in a trail position. He's done a little bit of that during his time in West Virginia. Before we get into my next question, I have one here from your boy Cuts asking us, did we get vaccines? I'm going to start off and say, yes, my man, I did get the vaccine. Live with my grandmother who is 89 years old. Even though I'm personally always making sure that I keep myself as healthy as possible, I don't want to run that risk with somebody whose immune system is very, very weak and I take care of on a regular basis, whether it be getting her medication or going to the grocery store. I got that vaccine to make sure she stays protected.
Right. Yeah, as far as his dad, if one of my, this for the first shot, this for the second shot. Yes, I am vaccinated, man. Look, man, like I said at the beginning, my wife is a nurse. You think I'm about to be sitting in a house with a nurse and not be vaccinated? Yes, I am vaccinated, man. I got vaccinated back in February, man. Like, in February, I believe.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work with us, bro. But
it ain't happening, man.
Speaking of the depth position, the strength for the New Orleans Saints, as you already know, is the defensive line, and the interior for the defense is looking a little sus now with David Onyemata missing the first 6 games because of illegal substance, right? So that really puts a hole right there. There have been some speculations for the Saints going out into the free agency to getting someone like Geno Atkins, for example.
Right.
But from my perspective, I think the Saints are going to be just fine with what they got. Not only do they have Shy Tuttle, a really good defensive tackle who can really step up and has been stepping up when his number was called, especially in the pass rushing sense. You have Malcolm Roach when his number was called. Listen, Malcolm Brown, he's a really good run stopper. He's a violent attacker. He plays with good shoulder pad level, and he has a high motor. Now, the only question to him is, can he sustain that over 6 games?
Right.
But they also have the likes of Ryan Glasgow, who looked really good against the Denver Broncos. Now, granted, the Denver Broncos had a wide receiver playing as a quarterback. But the Denver Broncos offensive line is nothing to sneeze at. They were top half of the league last year.
Right.
So Ryan Glasgow, he's a really good piece. And there's also Josiah Bronson, an undrafted defensive tackle who was really sought after this year. The Saints ended up getting him on a pretty good deal. And last but not least, we have another undrafted guy that you may be familiar with as Lorenzo Neal Jr. From Purdue. That is a big man.
Yep. I
mean, he's probably the biggest on that whole defensive line. He has good wingspan. He plays the runs better than most during his collegiate career. I say he comes into a really favorable position to be a rotational guy for the New Orleans Saints. Right. Either way, it's not so much for me as it's replacing David Onyemata. It's more just keeping your head above water for David Onyemata to come back. And that's my mentality. But TJ, what do you think the situation is for the defensive line for the New Orleans Saints is? Do you think they should go out and get a guy like Geno Atkins, or do you think they have enough talent already in the building?
You know, the best thing about this whole situation is you actually have a choice. You know, like you think about it, because you just mentioned a lot of these guys on the interior line, right? You mentioned, Malcolm Roach, Shy Tuttle. We've all seen these guys in real time, like play at a high level. I mean, I can remember Malcolm Roach's first game, week 1 against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was all over the field. He actually made the first tackle of the 2020 season for the Saints. You look at Shy Tuttle. I mean, Shy Tuttle has done a good job. I mean, he's going to forever be synonymous with that stiff arm, the Matt Ryan. But besides that, I mean, he's come in and done a really good job. So it's the best thing about it is you actually have a choice. You know what these guys can do in real time. And you mentioned Glasgow. You know, he had a good solid game against the Broncos. But if the Saints, you know, to me, I think they do need some veteran, some veteran blood on the interior line. I think Malcolm Brown was a good fit. You know what I'm saying? He was a seasoned veteran, a two-time Super Bowl champion. And to be honest with you, I got so much respect for Malcolm Brown because this guy coming off 2 Super Bowls. I mean, he could have easily phoned it in and say, okay, man, I'm about to just get this bag and just about to finish out my career. But he goes to the Saints and he still continues to play at a high level. He took upon himself to, go out there to be the best that he can be. The Saints also have some guys like Peyton Turner and Tano Passanio that can both play inside and outside that can play dividends. But like Ross Jackson reported, and I have to, have to agree with him on this. He was talking about the Geno Atkins situation about, I think Geno Atkins was dealing with an injury or something, but he was like, keep an eye on it. Geno Atkins is that point that would be a good fit for the Saints. Geno Atkins has been a guy who's been, a constant professional football league, has been a leader on the defense with the Cincinnati Bengals all those years. And he's a guy that's, in the twilight of his career.
Yeah, for sure, dude. But TJay, you good? We might be having some audio issues on your end.
He had some very solid seasons in Cincinnati. You add a Super Bowl to
TJay?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. It seems like your mic was cutting out there for a second, but I got the most of what you were saying.
Yeah, I was just talking about Geno Atkins, man. I think he would be a better fit,
Yeah.
I mean, he's a seasoned veteran. I feel like he's trying to solidify himself as being one of those all-time great guys because, I mean, he's on that threshold of possibly being a Hall of Famer. If he gets a Super Bowl ring with a team, it'll make him look even more appealing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, I'm not so much advocating for him, but I will say you can never have too many defensive tackles on that line. Never.
Yeah.
So if they end up making that move, they obviously know more than me. I'd be all for it. Welcome Geno Atkins to the New Orleans Saints. And that Damian Green, I hope he answered your question about Tano Passanio. What I know about Tano is he was more of a special teams guy. He made a living in Kansas City blocking point afters. He blocked field goals. He made a living on special teams, and he played in a versatile role, playing in the 3-tech on the interior as well as playing the edge rusher or edge defender, playing on the outside. Right. So if David Onyemata being out, they have that versatility with him to really do that.
Right.
Let's go ahead and read some more of these comments before we get into the next topic here. We got one from Slim South 504. What's going on with you, man? Welcome to the channel. He asks, do the Saints sign a defensive tackle or cornerback before training camp? And that's an interesting question. I believe if they were to sign anybody from free agency, I would believe it would be corner. They've really been looking at a couple of guys. They were rumored to be in the running for Xavier Howard. If he ends up asking for a trade, they might make a push for him, or maybe even Dre Kirkpatrick. He's solid. I wouldn't say he's good, but he's actually solid. He's not going to hurt your team at all. He's played in that press man coverage since his time in Arizona. I wouldn't mind it. That's a good veteran presence, and all under the lights of a secondary coach like Chris Richard. And Chris Richard is going to get this defensive secondary very right, and I honestly, so that's where I'm at. TJay, what do you think?
I'm leaning towards more of a defensive tackle because I quite honestly don't know what these young cornerbacks can do. I think that we need to give them an opportunity and a chance to see, because I mean, we can't just say because they're young and inexperienced, because young and inexperienced gave us the great duo in 2017 now of Ken Crawley and Marshawn Lattimore. They were both rookies, right? But they played really good. Like Ken Crawley, for the most part, was solid, and so was Lattimore. I mean, he was defensive rookie of the year. So you have a guy like Chris Richard, who I feel like can bring the best out of those guys. I have a lot of respect for Aaron Glenn. I was kind of up and down, until I actually seen him and met him. You know what I'm saying? Then I was like, okay, man, this dude pretty solid. But Chris Richard is just different. He's just a different cat, man. And I feel like that is the one thing that has been missing from Marshawn Lattimore that puts him from being good to elite. You know, that one guy that can actually push him. And I think you have some young corners on this team, man. Like, I don't like Paulson Adebo could have easily been a first round draft pick. You had the Pac-12 thinking about possibly closing up shop. He decides that he was going to sit out. And then the year before that, he got injured. So he was poised actually to have a good solid season. He was one of those guys that was up there with the Greg Newsomes and all those other good cornerbacks like J.C. Horn. He was in that mix. You know what I'm saying? Going into the season. Of course, COVID-19 happened, and then he sits out. And you know that teams, even though they weren't saying it, I mean, they were looking at players, you know, sitting out and what that actually means about them as professionals. So I think that the Saints need help on the interior line, you know, on the interior line. And I also think that Ryan Nielsen does a really good job, you know, on that line. Of course, they'll have like production, but there's nothing like a veteran at that position to help you see things differently. I'm always an advocate of getting like a veteran inside of a locker room at certain positions, especially a guy that's been around for quite some time, because it can help some of those younger guys become more of a professional and also help them with some of the little things that they need to do to catapult them into a certain status.
You know, I can honestly get behind that. I can get behind all of that. I've been advocating a lot recently for Paulson Adebo. So
yeah,
if he ends up making it, look, I'm very excited for him.
I mean, look, I understand how people feel about him. You know, as far as like we talked about the first topic about the COVID thing. I get it. Yeah. I completely understand. But look, it may be crazy to do, and I know that this has affected so many people's lives. But you got to be able to differentiate a person's personal views from what they actually are as a player. Like, the dude just don't want to, you know what I'm saying, take the vaccine shot. It's not like this man going out here robbing stores, killing people. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just on the fence about it. I don't feel like it affects any way him as a player. Now, that's something that he's going to have to come to grips with eventually. Hopefully he does. But as a player, I think that this dude is the right fit. Like, if you ever hear this guy talk, his interviews, the confidence, like, you can't fake that type of confidence he has, and you definitely can't fake that football mind he has either.
No, absolutely. So, with that being said, let's go ahead to get to some of these comments down here. We got one from Damian Green talking about the receiver position, and he highlighted Michael Thomas being injured. You were advocating a lot about it on your channel before coming here, talking about Michael Thomas, how he's going to be just fine coming back from the bye week. And they was to miss the maximum of 5 games, and make sure everybody keep that same energy. He said this. He said, I'm gonna echo it. If you're out here advocating for Michael Thomas to either be benched or be traded, keep that same energy. When he comes back and he ends up wrecking shop on DBs all around the league. We don't want to hear no topsy-turvy. None of it. You're either with Michael Thomas or you out on Michael Thomas. We over here, we all for Michael Thomas. We will not tolerate no Michael Thomas slander.
Right.
Now let's get into this. Let's get into this comment from Damian Green, because it actually goes into my next question for you, TJay. He says, I think we need to sign another veteran receiver since Thomas is out. I've been saying Golden Take for a while. What do we think? I believe the Saints, I wouldn't be mad if they ended up dipping their nose into the free agent pool for signing another veteran receiver, maybe like a Golden Tate, maybe even like a reunion of Kenny Stills. He was actually really good. Or maybe even Alshon Jeffrey. He's still out there. And if Larry Fitzgerald, he's very reliable. If he ends up deciding he can play another year, maybe get him on a 1 year deal. I wouldn't be mad about it, but I believe since it's only a 5-game stretch. It's only a 5-game stretch. Right. You don't want to hurt your bank just for like less than like just a little over or under a quarter of a season just to bring in a guy that's probably not going to see the field as much when MT comes back after the bye week. Right. We have the following. We have Traquan Smith. We have Marquez Callaway. We have Deontay Harris. We have Lil Jordan Humphreys. Juwan Johnson's moving over to tight end. We have Jalen McCleskey. So I'll let you know. That's the grandmama. That's the grandmama of the New Orleans Saints over here, y'all. But no. So back to my point, we have a lot of guys. We have a lot of young guys here who are just as hungry, just like the DB guys of the New Orleans Saints. I believe they can step up, just like Lord John Humphreys has stepped up when his number was called, like Jawan Johnson stepped up when his number was called, and Deontay Harris is poised to have more roll to his shoulder, and offensively. I don't think the Saints need to. I don't think the glaring need for a veteran receiver is as prominent as a lot of Saints on Saints Twitter is probably making it out to be. What do you think, TJay?
Well, I just think that people are in love with names. You know, they feel more comfortable with when there's a name that they actually recognize. And you look at a guy that like Golden Tate, who, I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they got him, but it's just the fact that he's Golden Tate. You've seen what he did with Seattle. You've seen what he did with Detroit. You've seen what he did with the Giants. And all, you know, even if you go a little further, you've seen what he did at Notre Dame if you watched them on NBC. So it just, you know, we just love names. Like, names make us comfortable. Like, even in our own life, Aaron, like, think about this, man. If you got on a pair of Pro Wings, right? Back in the days, we used to wear two called Pro Wings. You can get them from Payless. If you had Pro Wings on, you weren't stepping as confidently as you did when your mama went to the store and bought them Jordans and them Nikes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you felt more confidence. You felt more sure about yourself. And when you have guys that with names like a Golden Tate or a Larry Fitzgerald or some of these other wide receivers that are out here right now, it makes you feel more comfortable. But sometimes it's okay, you know what I'm saying, to rock those Pro Wings and make them your own. Looking at some of these young wide receivers out here, you got to be able to, you know what I'm saying, invest in these young guys, man. And I just, like I said on the State of the Saints podcast, we didn't know who Robin Meacham was for the most part, unless you watched the SEC. You didn't know who Marcus Colston was or Lance Moore. You didn't know how good Pierre Thomas could be. I mean, there were so many different guys. I mean, even when Terrence Copper was here, like you didn't know who he was. So sometimes it takes guys to develop in the system for them to blossom and for you to have an appreciation for them. And it's okay to add some veteran leadership into that, like we just talked about. But it's okay to see and have that wait and see approach about things. You know, Larry Fitzgerald is out here and he's an outstanding player, first ballot Hall of Famer. But at the same time, you might be looking at Larry Fitzgerald right now and a guy that can give you the same type of production at the age of 37 that Larry Fitzgerald could give you would be the same type of production that Jawan Johnson would give you, or the same McCleskey can give you, or Quan Baker. So we can't just fall in love with names and nostalgia. Sometimes we got to go with these young bucks, man, and see them blossom and have an appreciation for them growing as professionals.
Man, absolutely. And we got a couple of Kawan Baker fans here in the comments already advocated for the man. So definitely it really poses a really unique situation for guys who weren't looked at by most teams, and now they have a chance to really prove them wrong, and by stepping up, mainly to start, maybe on special teams. That's how Marquez Callaway made his mark.
Right.
He played that gunner position. He ended up recovering 2 muff punts against the San Francisco 49ers. And that's when we really saw him starting to break out.
Right.
And so coming in, let's not forget about Lil John Humphreys.
Yep.
If you guys haven't seen it, Lil John Humphreys, even though he was injured, Michael Thomas, he ended up catching a touchdown reception in the regular season before MT. So
Kansas City game.
Let that sink in. And this isn't the Kansas City that had offensive line troubles.
Yep.
This was a healthy former defending Super Bowl champion team in Kansas City. He needed someone. Sean Payton and Drew Brees needed somebody to make a play. Lord John Humphrey stepped up from the slot position and he made a play with just over 2 minutes to go in the final quarter. The Saints were poised to make a comeback if Craig Robertson literally just falls on top of the ball.
Yeah.
But
was that Azzalone or was that Craig Robertson? Are you talking about in the back of the are we talking about Azzalone before halftime? Are you talking about was there like another? I mean, look,
there was another.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember.
Lord Anzalone, oh Lord.
Oh, man.
But Lil John Humphreys right now, it's his spot to lose, guys. Let me just make this very clear. I'll say this again. It's his spot to lose.
Yeah.
Lord John Humphreys is poised right now that Juwan Johnson's a tight end. Like the only way he doesn't get a spot is if somebody really breaks out like a Jalen McCleskey or Kawan Baker that shines even better than him. That's the only way he ends up being on a practice squad yet again this year. I can't see a logical scenario outside of that where he is on practice squad, knowing the type of year that he had, knowing that like these suitable sample size he have. But he had a playoff showing, a playoff clutch two first downs. One was a 3rd and 12 with 5 yards behind the yard to gain, and he scrambles for an extra 7.
Yeah.
It's all here. So I'm all for these guys having their opportunity. I'm gonna ask you 2 more things, TJ, before we get out of here. But real quick, yep. I gotta do this in some.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. Hey. If my wife was here, I probably would have to get off too, wash some dishes,
Yes,
man.
sir, man. We can't deny the misses.
Yeah, no, I can't do that.
The first of the last 2 questions is going back to the defense real quick. The linebacker position, my favorite position all time in the NFL. With Quan Baker recently visiting the Saints of potentially coming back 1-year deal, he recently tweeted that he's past the storm. He's ready to go. Now, that can lead to a lot of things, right? But I am all for Quan Alexander signing back with the Saints. Now, that's not to knock the fact that the Saints have drafted linebackers high in the draft for 2 years in a row. Right. It's more of a depth position words behind the when you have Demario Davis, he's already going to be there, right? But you have Zach Bond, he's going to be there, and then Pete Water. But who do you have after that? Who do you have like that you can really rely on after that? The only notable name on the depth chart is Chase Hansen. He's more of a special teams guy. So let's say, for example, Pete Warner has a freak accident because we can't dispute that fact, or Zach Bond has a freak accident, and one of those guys end up getting injured. Quan Alexander is that guy that can really be used in tandem with either Zach Bond or Pete Warner at the will linebacker position because that's where they have those guys training anyway.
Right.
So, my question to you is: should the Saints be is the linebacker position already for the Saints, and should Quan Alexander be the guy they should stress to bring back?
Oh, absolutely, but at the right price. You know, Quan Alexander is a really good, solid linebacker. Could be one of the best in the league, but I mean, we got to be honest. I mean, he can't stay healthy. I mean, for the last couple of years, he's had issues staying on the field. When he is on the field, he plays really hard. You're glad that he's out there as a fan and as a coach. But you got to be on the field. But I definitely feel like his production and what he showed us in the small sample size that he did last season, it paid dividends for the New Orleans Saints. And it also brought out the best in Demario Davis because Demario Davis had a guy that he knows is going to be where he needs him to be. So that allowed Demario Davis to play free. And for a couple of weeks, Demario Davis looked like the best linebacker in football. But you look at Pete Warner, I think he has experience, being that weak side linebacker. I mean, he's a guy that can cover your running backs and your tight ends. Zach Bond, I don't know about him. He's more of a guy that reminds me a lot of Haloi Kakai, how he was. Haloi Kakai was a linebacker, but coming out of Washington, he led the college football in sacks. But he was a linebacker. I mean, he wasn't known for standing up. He was putting his hand on the ground, rushing a passer. So I'm interested to see if Zach Bond can actually make that transition. It's hard for a Tiger to change his stripes. In this case, it's hard for a guy to put his hand on the ground to turn into a weak side linebacker to cover half of the field and covering tight ends and running backs when you weren't asked to do that. Now, he has the speed to do it. I mean, he played running back in high school. They have some highlights out, but they'll be interested to see. But I do feel like the New Orleans Saints need to maybe add an extra linebacker. I don't know what these other guys are going to be able to bring to the table. Chase Hansen. I don't know if Colton Jumper is still there or not. But none of these guys, are going to knock your socks off. I can remember Colton Jumper running back an interception for a touchdown in preseason, but I haven't heard from him since. I think he got injured and then he sat out last season. I don't know, man, but you definitely want to get yourself a linebacker. There's KJ Wright. He's still out there right now. haven't heard anything about him. But when you have these veterans that are out there right now, they're just waiting for teams to possibly have injuries at training camp where they won't just be at I guess, at the mercy of those teams. Like, because when a team needs you, you feel like you have leverage in the contract negotiations. When you feel like you need that team, then they probably smell that desperation a mile away and they probably lowball you. So you got guys like KJ Wright that's probably waiting around. And if the Saints don't see what they need to see, we know that the Saints will be aggressive and they'll bring guys in no matter how much they got to pay or what they got to do to make it happen.
All good facts right there, TJ. Let me go ahead and read some of these comments here, and then we'll get into the last question. Then I'm gonna let you go, brother. We got Jerry Poor, who's not very keen on Larry Fitzgerald coming to New Orleans. So good. Okay, we hear you, OG.
Yeah,
he's up in age, but that's a fair take. He's up in age, but a very reliable guy. For a very reliable receiver for a guy his age, he can still play at a high level. You got Smokeless YT. If you haven't heard of Smokeless YT, man, you need to hear of him. The guy's one of the best out there, and created highlight packages. We talked,
shouts out to him, man.
Like back and forth on Instagram repeatedly. He says we're going to have about 5 receivers on game days, so we're possibly going to see Kawan and Lil John Humphreys touching the field. Look, I'm all for that. That's a perfect scenario. That's a perfect scenario for me right there. Lil John Humphreys and Kawan Baker. Come on, man. I'm so excited to see that. I hope you're right, Smoke. Big Smoke, I hope you're right, man.
Me too.
But with the and we got Aesop Winston getting some love here from Donald Woods Jr. What's going on with you, Donald?
Yeah, from the Rams, right?
Yeah, Aesop Winston taken up by the Rams. We got one more here before we get into the question from Katie Davis. What's going on, Katie? First time seeing you here on the BNG Breakdown podcast. Probably a TJ fan. Appreciate that all the time. She says, I see Paulson getting the number 2 spot. If Smith gets number 1 spot with Harris and Callaway, we good. I can agree with that. Traquan Smith, honestly, I think he's going to have an even better season with Winston than he did with Drew Brees. Because when he was drafted in 2018, Drew Brees' arm was already starting to decline. He couldn't consistently throw the ball 25, 30 yards down the field, even though he can give you that in some spurts.
Right.
And when you draft a guy like Traquan, who was one of the best deep threats in college football in UCF, that really is asking him to do more than what he was asked to do during his collegiate career, right? It's working out not only just different muscle groups, but it's also testing your mental and testing your mentality on, okay, I can't just run straight in the post. I can't just go on a deep go or a post route. You have to learn. You have to really expand your knowledge of the route tree to accommodate what Drew Brees is able to do on a more consistent basis. And that's not something that Traquan Smith really had at the time. He had a quarterback that could really sling it.
Yep.
But with Jameis Winston, it's a little bit different. Now you add that deep threat ability he already has to the fact that he's now more comfortable running any route the Saints ask him to do.
Right.
So I think Traquan Smith is going to have a really better season, as well as Marquez Callaway. Marquez Callaway had inconsistent play at the quarterback position in Tennessee, which hurt his draft stock as a whole. Every time you see that man get the field, he's always going up high pointing the ball. He was one of the best at high pointing the football during his time in Tennessee. On top of that, so these guys right here, these guys are more than just serviceable tires that can get you down the road. These guys are probably going to be core guys you don't want to see go anywhere else.
Yep, I agree. I think that these guys are diamonds in the rough, and I don't think that Saints fans have a level of appreciation as they will eventually learn to have for any of these guys right now.
Exactly. Now let's get into the final question. I got to talk about it. It's the quarterback position between Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. I know it's like beating a dead horse. It's like beating a dead horse at this point, but until we get a clarification of who's going to be a starter, is probably going to be talked about a little more about yours truly. So I got to get your thoughts on this right now. I know you're more of a Jameis Winston fan, just like I'm a Jameis Winston fan, but we still got people here in the Who Dat Nation that much prefer Taysom Hill being the starting quarterback. And honestly, I don't see why. Other than the fact that they rather not see Jameis Winston than more so they would rather see Taysom Hill. And some people wanted to argue the fact that he had 30 interceptions or he had 12 fumbles in 2019. And sometimes I like to argue the fact that, okay, you want to talk about 12 fumbles in 2019 over an entire 16-game season minus over 10 fumbles over a 7-game stretch. So Taysom Hill had more volume of fumbles over a lesser period than Jameis Winston over an entire season. That's a no-brainer. Some people wanting to bring up that, okay, the Taysom Hill is more of a Heisman finalist or a Heisman semi-finalist. I'm not kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding you. Some people told me finalists.
I knew he was good.
Some people told me finalists. Some people told me semi-finalists. Like they're not even sure if he was either or. But I'll be like, okay, a finalist. Let's say for the sake of argument, a Heisman finalist versus somebody who actually won a Heisman and won a national championship in Florida State. So my thing is, if you're going to argue those points, I mean, you're really just trying to say that you don't want to see Jameis Winston because of what he did in Tampa. And it's to some degree, okay, that's fine, but when you're talking about pure quarterback play, being able to deliver the ball where it needs to be delivered to, making the smart reads, and being able to deliver it with accuracy. The 4-game sample size for the New Orleans Saints, Taysom Hill has shown that he throws wobbly ducks. He can't throw over 15 yards without it looking like he's throwing a muffed punt. But honestly, and on top of that, he has more value everywhere else because he sees different spots on the field. Whether to be the slot receiver or playing the tight end, maybe even playing the halfback, especially special teams. His presence alone in those different areas for the Saints, it opens up opportunities for everyone else. On top of him being able to make a play when the Saints need it most.
Right.
So you're trying to advocate for the Saints to cripple their production by putting him solely at quarterback. And if he does end up playing solely quarterback, that ends up really hurting them on the fact that he's probably going to be holding the clipboard.
Right.
So who are you going to have filling in those spots? My thing is Ian Book. Okay, fine. Let's see your clipboard. Ian Book. Hey, Ian Book is a guy that can really run those quarterback powers or those design runs. He's done it, and he's done it during his time in Notre Dame. But TJ, my final question to you is, what do you have to say to all the Taysom Hill supporters that want him to be the starting quarterback for the Saints over Jameis Winston?
Well, I'm not mad at them for having that opinion. You know what I'm saying? I say on the show, I'm not there to change anybody's mind. I'm just saying who I feel like would be the better fit. Jameis Winston, just don't feel like he's ever been in this type of situation. And I feel like it's hypocrisy when you say things like the Saints are a really good organization, but you can't believe that a guy like Jameis Winston can come to an organization like the Saints and become a better version of themselves. Like that makes absolutely no sense. And I think when people are saying that this guy can't play, quarterback, it's like saying that the coaching staff, don't know what they're talking about, and they do. I don't feel like Jameis Winston would have re-signed with the team because the Saints would have decided to go in a different direction if they didn't feel like they had something that they can actually build on. I don't think that Jameis Winston is a scrub as people try to make him out to be. I just think that he's just a better quarterback than Taysom Hill. I don't think there's anything for the exception of running that Taysom Hill is better than Jameis Winston at. And I think that other people, they look at other teams and they try to compare other players to the players that we have. So when people start looking at the success of Lamar Jackson in such a short period of time, him running, throwing the football all over the place. Okay, we got a dual threat quarterback. He can run the RPO too. But those are two different guys. I mean, Lamar Jackson literally becomes Barry Sanders when he leaves the pocket. Taysom Hill has straight line speed. That's like two different things. Lamar Jackson isn't fumbling the football all over the place. And Lamar Jackson is winning, a bunch of games, taking it over. As much as I like Taysom Hill, I have never seen him take over a game, okay? Maybe you can say that Vikings game towards the end, he made an impact, but not on the level of Lamar Jackson. But I just think that Jameis is a better quarterback. They can root for Taysom. That's fine. But we need to be objective in this. and understand that what you're saying is if Jameis can't succeed in New Orleans, that means that the coaching staff isn't as good as you're making it out to be. So don't go to other teams and talk about how great the Saints organization is when a Bucks fan come into your chat or your feed and say something like, "Oh, we got a better team than you," because you're basically disqualifying yourself because you're not believing that Jameis Winston can become a better player under Sean Payton and his offensive staff.
Yo, that's very true. Let's go ahead and read 2 comments and I'll let you go, TJ. We got one here from Cast the Legend saying, who that? We're gonna be hearing the Winston on the play call. S.O.T.S Winston, another sleeper. Just though Sean Payton puts his raw receivers in the best position to succeed. I haven't seen much of S.O.T Winston, but I'm hearing quite a bit of buzz about S.O.T. So if he ends up getting that spot on the roster, I'm going to have to take notice of it. I'm really going to take notice of it. We got one more here to let you go from Katie here saying, I feel we should give Chase a missed shot, which I feel Sean will probably fail. Then they go back to Winston and Taysom back in his role as a gadget player. My thing about that is if you're saying he's probably going to fail already. And so my thing, if you know he's probably going to fail, why put him in that position in the first place?
I agree. You know, like, but look, the dude deserves a shot. Like, I'm not going to sit up here and just say the dude don't deserve a shot. I mean, he went 3-1 as a starter. He completed 70% of his passes. To say that that's not, it's not like a Nick Mullins type situation. Like, I think we all can agree Nick Mullins is never going to be anything except for a journeyman quarterback. This guy gave you 70% of his passes. He gave you a few touchdowns. Yes, he has some things he needs to work on, but so does Jameis. So, I mean, they both deserve a fair shot. I think that if Sean Payton wants to keep his job, he looks at this objectively. I mean, it wouldn't be very smart on his part if he didn't. So I say give him a shot, man. I'm not in no way saying that, oh, it's just over. This isn't like Vince Carter in the 99 slam dunk contest. Like, it went over before it started. Some people may feel that way. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. Give him a shot.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Oh, one more thing. The defensive end position with Peyton Turner and Marcus Davenport. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Okay. Quick question. When Marcus Davenport was drafted by the Saints, have you ever seen a workout video be posted by him ever?
No.
Ever. Not once.
Nah, I can't say I did.
Well,
have you?
No, but one came out a few days ago. And I believe that's because of the Peyton Turner effect. Now, what I mean by Peyton Turner effect is when he got here, you can see that he has arguably the most charisma on this entire Saints draft class. The second one being Landon Young. Peyton Turner has really turned a lot of hate into a high expectation, and me included. Yeah. And he's shown that he's really affected Marcus Davenport, not just in the sense that he's showing more of a veteran type of mentality because he's been working on his mental and on the mental side of his game this season, but he's managed to inspire Marcus Davenport enough to really work on his technique, his pass rush technique, and pumped out a video. This man pumped out a whole video because Peyton Turner showed up. So I believe this is going to be the thing that really helps Marcus Davenport. And you've already commented on it that you can't have nobody holding your hand for you. And I do agree with you on that. But at the same time, I believe that this is really the thing that Marcus Davenport needed to get him over his mental slump. My thing, TJay, what are you expecting out of Peyton Turner?
This guy reminds me of a young Cam Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Just his charisma. You know what I'm saying? Like his playful attitude. You can tell he has that on and off switch. But I will say this: you can put out as many highlight tapes as you want to, man. You can put out highlights, low lights, spotlights, strobe lights. If you don't have that dog in you, it don't matter. You know, it really don't. Like, you can't man, you can't ask the tiger to change his stripes. I have to go back to that. You can't. Like, that's not in his DNA. That's just not the way he's wired. You see most guys, you know, they get a sack, they celebrate, and they all animated. He gets a sack, man. It's like, okay, next play. I mean, I'm not knocking it. I don't even have an issue with the way that he plays. I have an issue with the fact of how he's wired from time to time. Like, I think that coming from that school, UTSA, coming from a smaller school, coming to the NFL and having to learn to be a pro, I think that it affects him. I think he's doing the good things when you're going through slumps. Stay off social media. I don't really see him on social media that much. That's a good thing. And just kind of get your mental state straight, you know. But it's just something about Marcus Davenport. I mean, he's just not one of those rah-rah guys. I don't think he ever will be one of those rah-rah guys. And for a Saints fan at this particular point to think that any day, anytime soon, that Marcus Davenport most likely have a C on his chest and be the captain after Cam Jordan retires, I think is sadly mistaken. I think he's a good, solid football player, but I just think that as long as he allow the white noise to cloud the way that he plays, and he's not as aggressive, I think he's always going to have the same issues, rather he's injured or not.
Fair takes right there. We got one coming from Donald Woods Jr. Carl Granderson put in a lot of work this all season. Watch out for him. I've advocated for Carl Granderson periodically. Big creep. I'm looking forward to seeing him. He's gotten his opportunities last year, but he came away with 6 sacks and 4 quarterback pressures, 3 QB hits. He's produced a lot, and he had 2 forced fumbles on top of that. So Carl Granderson is a really good pick, but I gotta let TJ go, guys, for right now. He's a busy man. He's got a lot of stuff going on later today. But TJ, I appreciate you coming on and being my first special guest of the week. I hope you enjoyed your time here. We have some new people that probably weren't here in the beginning. So one more time, plug in your social media, let people know how they can get in touch with you and interact with you.
Well, you can interact with me on Twitter at State of Saints, also at State of Saints on Instagram. And you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just search The State of the Saints podcast. And thank you, Aaron. I really do appreciate that. And once again, man, I can't express how proud I am of you, man. Like, real talk, like how you're growing, the passion that you have. And I mean, the sky's the limit for you, man. You keep doing what you're doing. And anytime you need me, man, I'm here for you. All you got to do is just hit me up.
I appreciate that, TJ. Same thing to you, brother. Look, guys, this is what it is right here. When one person eats, we all eat. So don't forget, like you gotta spread the wealth around. So if you see an upcoming Saints content creator, you guys think he's doing a good job, go ahead and show him that love. There's no harm in that. And direct them to TJ, direct them to me, direct them to WD and Chat Life Podcast, Smokers YT. Just bring everybody together. They're like, there's no reason that nobody can be successful here on this platform or any other place on any other platform they're like they're starting on. It's all about the cohesion. It's all about the family over here. Right. So make sure you bring everybody up and don't forget where you started from. When you finally make it, like TJ, he's made it. He's continuing to make it, going even further. He never forgets the roots he's come from. I'm sure as hell am never going to forget the roots I come from. I'm always going to give TJ the credit because he is the one that got me started in the first place. Whereas Smokers YT, WD and Chat Life Podcast, these other guys coming in supporting me, like that's my foundation, and I'm always going to give them that type of credit. And you guys coming in and supporting me, interacting with me, you guys make it. You guys sustain that. You guys sustain the success. We are all important here. There is not one person better than anybody. Never forget that. TJ, I'm going ahead and let you go right now. You go ahead and handle the other stuff. I'll be watching your podcast going forward. I'm very much looking forward to the next one. I'll see you next time.
All right, man. You take it easy. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's TJ, y'all. And as always, it's black and gold until we dead and cold. I'll see y'all for the next video.